Well, hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to Live at 5. This is a new little experiment I'm trying because I've wanted to do more live streaming. I just enjoy live streaming a little bit more. I enjoy the interaction with the audience. And I also want to be showing up at more consistent times so that you guys can schedule. You know when I'm going to be live, and it will usually be at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, because Eastern Time is the only time zone that exists for me. And so what I'm doing is, for a little experiment for a little while in 2022, and we'll see how this goes, is I'm going to be going live on my main channel at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, except for this Thursday because I'm getting a tattoo, an appointment I made almost a full year ago, so I'm not changing the appointment now. But normally on Thursdays, I'll be live on this channel. And then on Fridays, I'm going to be live on my second YouTube channel, which is Actively Unwoke. And this is where our Friday happy hours are going to live from now on. Many of you know that I have been, for actually almost all of last year, doing happy hour at 3 p.m. on Fridays on both my main channel and my second channel, and obviously Odyssey and Rockfin and all of that other stuff. But in 2022, happy hours are going to be moving to my second channel, which is youtube.com/activelyunwoke. I'll still stream them on Odyssey and Rockfin just because don't need to set up multiple channels on alt tech platforms. It gets a little complicated. But on YouTube, I will be moving it there, so it will not be on my main channel anymore. So if you have not subscribed to Actively Unwoke yet, please make sure you do so. The link is in the description below if you are on, actually, I think any platform. And it's just youtube.com/activelyunwoke. So on these streams, what I'm going to do is I'm not necessarily going to do a pure news stream, although we may occasionally talk about news. I'm going to talk about different things that are on my mind, different things that I'm thinking about. It could be news, it could be GETTR, like we're going to talk about today. It could be mindfulness, it could be spirituality, could be any number of things. I'll try to put a little preview in the thumbnail about what I'm planning on talking about, but who knows where the time will take us. I do like interacting with the chat. I like answering your guys' questions. And so we're just going to see how it goes. And I'm just going to play with it for a little while. My goal at first is to just get consistent about streaming at 5 o'clock and getting into that whole workflow, because that's a whole other thing. And then we're going to figure out what we want to make of it. We're going to figure out what you guys like. We're going to figure out what I like. And we're going to roll with however it goes. Now, you guys know that if you want to connect with me, one of the best places to do that is in my locals community. And that's going to be especially true today. And I know many of my locals members are here right now because we are going to be changing our community Zoom times in 2022. So those of you who tune in regularly, you know that I have my locals community. You can join at kb.locals.com right there. And my locals members gets all sorts of extra perks. And one of those perks is that we do regular community Zooms twice a week. In 2021, we did them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. In 2022, the time is going to be changing and the dates are going to be changing. So we actually have one today in just 2 hours. Our first Monday community Zoom, and then we have one on Wednesday at noon because I have people in my community that live all over the world, so we try to accommodate different time zones. Community Zooms are awesome because it's a time for us to come together, connect as people. We support each other. We talk about whatever we want. We maybe sometimes vent. We get advice from each other. It honestly is the best community I could ever ask for. And if you were thinking about trying it out, today is the perfect time to do it because just 2 hours from now, you're going to be able to join all of us for a nice open community Zoom where you can talk about whatever you want. It's not recorded. It's our own little version of a safe space. And that's going to be happening at kb.locals.com. But in order to get access to the community Zoom, you do have to be a supporter in my locals community. So support comes with just like small little bit of skin in the game, $5 a month, less than a cup of coffee you're going to get at Starbucks or apparently even Dunkin' Donuts now. You can do it for $50 a year, which is going to give you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. And whichever level you choose to come in and support at, you're going to be able to support the work I do, help keep me independent, and you're going to get access to lots and lots of perks like our 2 community Zoom calls every single week, like our craft and bitch. So we're going to have our bitch craft is going to be coming up on Saturday. So if you do crafts like, knitting obviously is the most superior of all craft. But if you do other things like crochet or quilting or needlepoint or stained glass, or some people have even come and cleaned their guns, some people have come and folded their laundry. Bitchcraft is just a time for us to kind of get together on the second Saturday of every month. We're going to do them at least once a month, maybe some little impromptu gatherings in there, just to have an open time where we can craft and chat about what's going on in the world. So if you're available on Saturdays, that's something that can come up. We're going to be doing book clubs. We're going to be doing small group discussion topics in our supporter-only Discord, because the only way to get access to the Discord is by becoming a member in Locals. So lots of great stuff going on. And again, you can get access to all of that by heading over to kb.locals.com/support and joining up. And we look forward to welcoming you into the community. If you have not yet introduced yourself to the community, please make sure you do so. All right, let's jump right in and talk about a couple things that are going on. So who's on GETTR? I'm on GETTR. Hang on, let me get this up. I pinned this to the top of the chat in YouTube, but I just joined. Well, actually, no, I've been on GETTR for a while. I think I joined in July. Yeah, July 2021. And I haven't really been doing much with it. And it's not for any particular reason other than it was just like another thing, right? So you can find me on GETTR at just Carlin, just my first name. And, I liked the platform. The platform is very easy to use. I haven't had any problems with it. No edit button, GETTR. But I'm assured that it's coming soon. So make sure you're following me on GETTR. I wasn't one of, so like, I apparently have the little verification thingy, but what they didn't do is they didn't like port over, for a lot of the verified users, they've ported over like all of their followers and have like connected their Twitter accounts to their GETTR so they don't have to do it in 2 different places. I am a poor man's verified person on GETTR. They haven't done any of that shit for me. So I have to rebuild from scratch. But I was actually thinking about it earlier today, because George, you're right. Bitchcraft would not be this Saturday. I have no idea how dates work. It would be next Saturday, I think. I'll have to go look at the time. It's in Locals. George, you're correct though with that super chat. Thank you. Just a clarification, will Bitchcraft be on this Saturday? It's technically the second Saturday. Maybe I don't know how calendars work, George. So anyway, I'm like a poor man's verified person on GETTR, so I need to rebuild my audience. So if you guys are on there, please make sure you follow me. But I actually like this better. I was thinking about this last night because a lot of my audience on like Twitter and YouTube, and it's not that I don't love and appreciate you guys, but my audience grew primarily from people who thought I had converted to being a conservative. And we all, of course, know that that didn't actually happen. And so a lot of my audience gets really upset with me when I don't talk about conservative things. And I'm like, I'm not a conservative. What do you want? And then they're like, you were just pretending. I'm like, I never said I was a conservative. But I'm actually looking forward to rebuilding the audience on GETTR in a little bit more of an organic way where I have people that like actually understand who I am and what I'm about. And hopefully, so that'll actually be a good thing. I know I do need to put it in dark mode. You're 100% right. I do. I've just been playing around with it and I've been having so much fun in the past couple days because what's happened on GETTR in the past couple days, hang on, let me just stop sharing this screen because I want to bring up the email that I just got from GETTR. I mean, right before I went live, hang on, stop share on that. Let me bring up this email that I just got from GETTR because GETTR had like a big day yesterday. Marjorie Taylor Greene got banned off Twitter. Joe Rogan apparently got on GETTR. So let's just read this email. We can see how GETTR's doing. GETTR just reached another amazing milestone, 230,000 signups in one day. It's the biggest day since launch. Now, dude, I have to admit that that is pretty impressive because I was on GETTR like all day yesterday and they didn't crash. And I think that this is the first time that I've ever seen a conservative built media platform that didn't crash as soon as everyone kind of decided to log on to it. I mean, like Gab regularly crashed. Parler, forget about Parler. Parler is crazy. Like every single time conservatives built their own platform, it inevitably crashes and goes through all these technical difficulties. But it seems like GETTR actually handled the situation pretty well. So I was pretty pleased with that. We've also added huge names to the platform in recent days. We've had, drumroll please, Joe Rogan, Larry the Cable Guy, Dave Rubin, Andrew Bogart, Kurt Schlichter, Andy No, Jordan Peterson, Robert Malone, all joining the ranks of GETTR. Let's see. The fact checkers can ban any and all information they see as fake or doesn't allow their preferred COVID narrative regardless of facts. As recently as Sunday, Twitter permanently banned the personal accounts of Dr. Robert Malone, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. We work day in and day out to make sure that our platform meets all of your social needs. So there are things that I like about GETTR. I like that the post length is longer, so 777 characters. I haven't used this photo or video editing thing in the app yet. Post up to 3-minute videos. Now, allegedly, they are adding the ability to edit. I've already taken them to task once for not having an edit button. I'm like, GETTR, you had one job. Literally all any of us wanted was an edit button. That's it. You had to get fancy with the rest of the stuff. You had to screw with the post length. You had to make fancy editing. I didn't want to edit photos or videos in your app, GETTR. I just wanted an edit button for the posts. That was literally all that I wanted. But apparently that's going to be coming soon. So I'm pretty pleased about that. But the thing of it is, and the question that I have is exactly how uncensored is GETTR? Exactly how uncensored is it? Because one of the things that I heard was that they banned Nick Fuentes for not doing anything. Now, here's the thing. I don't like Nick Fuentes. I don't like the Groypers. Don't like them at all. However, the fact of the matter is that if Nick Fuentes didn't do anything wrong, then why is he already banned on GETTR? And I've been asking around all day. I'm like, why was Nick Fuentes banned on GETTR? Why was he banned on GETTR? What did he do? What did he say? And for a platform that's marketing itself as a free speech platform, to be quite frank, I think these are important questions to ask. Not, again, that I support Nick Fuentes or the Groypers. I do not like them. They are not my cup of tea. But I also do not like that conservatives seem to be perfectly okay with censorship when they are the ones pulling the strings. Now, this is something I talked about last week on this channel when I ran a poll on Twitter and it got over 6,600 votes. And 66% of people who answered that poll said that they would prefer to ban pornography than protect the First Amendment. Because a lot of people don't seem to understand that pornography is actually protected speech under the First Amendment. This has been ruled on by the Supreme Court on many different occasions. You don't have to like porn at all. You don't have to watch porn. You don't have to consume porn, but it is protected speech. And if you would infringe on that, then how many other forms of free speech would you infringe on? And one of the things that became very clear to me when I executed that poll was that conservatives don't mind censorship. They just want to be the ones deciding what gets censored. And this makes sense. It makes sense if you think about it, because have we ever seen any conservatives, like the politicians, genuinely fighting back against tech censorship? Have we seen any conservative politicians making any effort at all to fight back against tech censorship in a real way? No, they don't. They use it for fundraising. They use it to rev up the base, but do they actually do anything? Well, they don't. And I'm really starting to believe that the reason that they don't do anything is because they're not in favor of the current censors, but they're very much in favor of censorship. I truly believe that the only problem that conservatives have with companies like Twitter is that they are not the ones pulling the strings. They are not the ones deciding what should be allowed and what should not be allowed. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's been a lot of playing around on GETTR in the last 24 hours. I'm going to talk about some of it. But GETTR is absolutely censoring its users. They are 100% censoring their users, and I'm going to show you proof of this. And this only reinforces the point that it's not text censorship that conservatives are opposed to. It's progressive text censorship that they're opposed to. I'm having a great old time on GETTR. I really am. I had so much fun last night. I laughed so hard. We're going to talk about that. But I also think we need to acknowledge that what is being set up here is that Twitter is the progressive censored platform. GETTR is the conservative censored platform. That's what's happening. Conservatives are not opposed to censorship. They just want to be the ones pulling the strings. But let's talk about Nick Fuentes for a second. Let's talk about him getting banned on GETTR. This appeared in Newsweek. Now, you all know how I feel about Newsweek. Not exactly the most accurate of reporting sources. Smeared me, lied about me. So we're going to take everything we read in Newsweek with a grain of salt, but it was the source that I had available to me, and so we will use it for the moment. Right-wing social media site bans controversial term, sparking fury among user base. This was published on December 24th, 2021. Many are up in arms over a social media's website's decision to block a controversial term. After banning white nationalist figure Nick Fuentes from their platform, GETTR has blocked the term groyper from its website. Now, I would just like to confirm that I did actually do a test. Actually, let me see if I have it up. Let me see. I know I tried it out earlier. Here it is. I said Nick Fuentes got banned on here for using the term groyper. I'm going to test this out. Groyper. So I can confirm that I was allowed to post the term groyper. So I'm not exactly sure where Newsweek is getting this information from, but I was indeed allowed to post the term groyper earlier today. But let's keep going. According to a report from the Daily Beast, the term is often used by Fuentes supporters and fans. A spokesperson said on Tuesday that the commentator was banned because he violated GETTR's clearly defined terms of use. So is GETTR saying that using the term groyper is against their terms of use? How does that make it different than Twitter? And why was I allowed to use the term groyper? It's not banned. Like, they are banning words. There are words that you cannot even... I don't even know what is a post called on GETTR? I don't know. It's not like a tweet. Like, I don't know what it's called. But there are certain words that if you try to post them, you will not be able to. The libertarians were doing a lot of experimenting with this last night. There's things, if you look at my GETTR timeline and you scroll down to last night, they actually figured out what the algorithm is. It involves less than 2 bad words per sentence. Sometimes you can use a bad word and put a period after it. Sometimes you can't. A get just says that a tweet on GETTR is called a get. Probably. That makes sense. But why was Nick Fuentes banned? What terms of service did he break? And if it was just saying the word groyper, really, GETTR? Really? That's not the only evidence I have that GETTR is censoring people. We're going to talk more about that in a second. Fuentes himself seemed disappointed at the ban, unsure as to who exactly was responsible for the move. Apparently, my GETTR ban, some are saying Steve Bannon did it, some are saying someone else did it, said the figure with his nightly talk show on Thursday. But this is bad news either way. When Beast reporter Zachary attempted to write the groyper term on the website on Thursday night, an error banner appeared. The Zachary attempted to write the term again on Friday, got another error message popped up, but it was unclear when exactly groyper was banned from the platform. It is estimated that the move was implemented on Thursday night. So it sounds like GETTR may have, in order to have a reason to ban Nick Fuentes, may have outlawed the term groyper. But again, I've already, I posted it earlier. Here, let's try it again. Testing to see if I can post the term groiper again. Yep, it looks like that's fine. So groiper was banned, and now groiper is not banned. Am I spelling groiper incorrectly? Like, what is going on? Nope, completely spelled correctly. GETTR has banned use of the word groiper, LOL, wrote Fuentes on a chatting app, Telegram. Let's go. Other users have begun trying to circumvent the ban in support of Fuentes. Arizona Representative Wendy Rogers wrote groiper on her GETTR profile on Thursday night. Well, with the post still being up as of this writing, it is unknown whether or not the website will attempt to also ban similar variations of the term. Well, it doesn't seem like they have so far. Then it just talks about the term a little bit more. So yeah, GETTR is absolutely banning people, but that's not the only instance I have of this. You see, there are a couple libertarians. There's this dude, Reed Coverdale, and this rapscallion, Justin O'Donnell. Now, I can't actually show you the things that Reed and Justin have been posting on GETTR. But I strongly recommend, if you listen, man, there are certain words I will not use. I won't use the N-word. I won't use the F word. I very rarely will use the R word. I very rarely will use the C word. And if I use the C word, I'm probably referencing myself. There are certain words that I just won't use. But that doesn't mean that I believe they should be banned speech. I am making a choice about what I think is appropriate for me. I absolutely think they should be protected speech, because the only speech that we actually should be protecting is speech that is offensive. The only speech that is required to be protected is speech that is offensive. If we aren't going to protect offensive speech, then we shouldn't pretend that we believe in free speech at all. We just shouldn't pretend, okay? So while there are certain things that I will not say, I will absolutely fight for Justin and Reed's right to say them, especially on a platform that is supposed to be protecting free speech. But I will say this, watching the libertarians last night test the boundaries of what they could get away with on GETTR. Here, I posted this tweet, and like I said, if I posted pics of some of the things that are happening on GETTR right now, I'd get banned instantly, which is true. I would absolutely have gotten banned on Twitter if I posted some of the stuff that they were saying. And I'm going to show you some of the stuff that actually got them banned. Maybe a little bit. It's like being in a foreign land, watching a custom you don't fully understand with curiosity. The free speech debauchery is almost artful in its execution. You know what I watched last night on GETTR? They were playing. Yeah, they were using bad words and they were saying offensive things, but it was actually really, really lovely to watch. It was like they were playing. They were having fun. They were like little kids seeing what they could get away with, testing the boundaries. I was on the floor laughing with some of the things that they posted. And it was like one of those things, it's like, I can't remember a time in my lifetime when I've seen that type of play with speech. When I've seen people just saying some of the most offensive things, because even though I grew up in the 90s, more or less, I mean, I guess grew up in the 80s. I was born in 81, but like my formative years were in the 90s. That's what I remember. It was like, I have never seen people use language like that. And it was really fascinating for me to watch it and to know that the only reason they were using this language was to test the bounds of free speech. They weren't being hateful about it. Like Justin will flat out said to me yesterday, he's like, I don't hate the Jews, I hate the states. And I completely get what he's saying, and I completely get what he's doing. But it was like that freedom to play with language. Now listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Gab. I don't know how many of you are on Gab. I am on Gab. I don't really use it. There was a time when I actually liked the platform because I liked the functionality of the platform. But then I just like every time I go on Gab, I'm called all manner of Jewish slur. I do think it's kind of funny. I've mentioned this a couple of times. Like Newsweek apparently thinks I'm an anti-Semite. The actual anti-Semites call me a Jew. So I just don't go on Gab because like the excess hate is just too much for me. And so I do understand the inclination to want to be on a platform where you don't have all manner of Jewish slur in your timeline at any given moment. I do understand that. But that's not what they were doing. They weren't being hateful. They were testing the bounds of what they could say. And on a platform that declares, we are the free speech platform, we believe in the First Amendment, they should be allowed to do that. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at some of the things I can show you. Oh, this was funny. Reed was getting so bad last night. Gonzo Libertas tweeted this out. Reed Coverdale in a few days explaining his GETTR feed after posting bail. And I honestly would not have been surprised if that had happened. Well, oh God, oh God, oh God, that's not what I meant to show you. Oh no, oh no. Hey God, let me show you the censored one. I'm going to show you the censored one. So Reed was actually censored on GETTR. Let me show you what he posted. There it is. That's the one I can show you. So this is proof that like, so Reed was posting a whole bunch of stuff. Justin was posting a whole bunch of stuff. Both of them woke up this morning and found out that GETTR had just summarily deleted their posts. GETTR had just deleted them. Didn't notify them that they were deleted. Didn't give them any explanation for why they were deleted. You can see here, Trump is the R word, Ben Shapiro is the F word. I'm not going to get myself in trouble. I think the rest of it's okay to show on YouTube. But Reed was specifically testing what he could post, and he found out that this wasn't allowed to be posted on GETTR, and it has since been deleted. Let me see. Let me see what... Okay, and here's evidence from Justin. He was trying to post earlier. GETTR wouldn't even have... They weren't even allowing him to post. Let's see, can we show this? Oh, God. No, that one we can't show. That's a different thing. Reed also said, and I want to make sure this is clear, if you're going to get pissed by my demeanor over on GETTR, Justin and I made it explicitly obvious that we were only going there to push the limits and to try to get banned. So they're doing this for a purpose. But I think that we should all be asking the question about why GETTR is banning protected speech. There was another thing that Justin posted that I can't show you because it involved a Jack Murphy-like cartoon of someone inserting something into someone else. You can figure out what that means. But Justin's been posting this cartoon. That cartoon got deleted, and he was making a point about, the first time he posted it, he was making a point about Israel, us paying for Israel's defense, which probably we shouldn't be doing. The second time he posted it, he was making a point about GETTR not really believing in free speech. So I want to emphasize, I really am having a ton of fun on GETTR. Again, if you're on GETTR, I hope you'll follow me. I'm just at Carlin on GETTR. I'm having an absolute ball with it. I will say that looks like some unsafe space account forgot to register their handle on GETTR. Looks like someone may have snagged Unsafe Space's handle on GETTR. I wonder who that could have been. Maybe the person they've been bullying for over a year. But this is the type of fun I'm having on GETTR, and I hope you will all join me over there. Let's make it last while we can. I don't know how long this is going to last. I remember, listen, man, I am old. I remember what Twitter was like back in the day. I remember what Twitter was like when the fail whale was a thing. That's like circa 2007. Twitter used to be awesome, and now Twitter sucks. Parler, when Parler first launched, Parler was pretty great. I had a really good time on Parler when Parler first launched, and then they went through all their troubles, and now Parler sucks again. GETTR right now is fun. It's fun. It's playful. I'm really enjoying it. And so let's all get on there and enjoy it for as long as we can. And fingers crossed, I truly, truly, truly hope they don't screw it up. I truly hope they don't, because I'm just having an absolute ball. But I want us to hold GETTR's feet to the fire. I want us to hold them to the fire. If they believe in the First Amendment and they believe in free speech, then they shouldn't be censoring people that aren't doing anything wrong. If you want to have a First Amendment standard for speech that necessitates you tolerating speech you find offensive, that necessitates you tolerating speech that you wouldn't say yourself. I would not say many of the things that Justin and Reed have said in the past 24 hours. But I find a lot of them hilarious, and I completely understand what they're doing and the point that they're making, and I absolutely will fight to the death to protect their right to do it. And there is currently no platform online that will allow that type of speech. So don't call yourself a First Amendment platform if you're not actually going to act like a First Amendment platform. I don't want to see GETTR devolve into a cesspool like Gab, but there's got to be a happy medium here. There really does. And if GETTR just turns out to be the conservative censored version of Twitter, I guess that just means that libertarians are the most oppressed class when it comes to free speech. All right, guys, that's all I have on GETTR. Let's move on to the next thing. But before we get into that, please make sure you mount that like button if you haven't already. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be streaming every day on this channel on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 5 p.m. from now on. Not on Fridays. On Fridays, we're going to be on my second channel, Actively Unwoke. But Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll be here. Saturdays, we're going to take those days off. Need to sleep sometime. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was this Dear White Parents website. Check this out. Michael Shermer tweeted this the other day. Jordan Peterson retweeted it. This is a full page ad for a website called dearwhiteparents.guide. Full page ad in the Wall Street Journal. Some white parents say, I teach my children to treat everyone equally, to treat everyone fairly, and that's inadequate. This is what I teach my children, and it is more than adequate to do otherwise as racist. So what is this website? What is this website? Check this out. There's a movie involved in this website. There's a dictionary. We're going to just explore this website together. How was race invented? What is racism? What is oppression? This is for parents who are trying to talk to their kids about racism. Do you guys want to watch this quick movie about parents struggling to talk to their kids about racism? Let's do it. We're going to do it anyway. We're going to do it anyway. I just got to get it up in a different browser. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. We'll get it in a different browser so that everyone can hear it and not just me, because that's not very productive. Guys, this would be a great time to join my locals if you haven't already while I'm getting myself set up here. Okay. Share screen. Chrome tab. Share audio. All right. Let's watch this movie. I think it's just like 3 minutes long. It's like a trailer. Yeah, it's like 3 minutes long. So let's watch this trailer and see how much parents struggle to talk to their kids about racism. Let me know if you guys can't hear the sound.
Why the police officer, when he killed the black man, why didn't he go to jail?
Honestly, I don't know how to explain.
If white parents don't start having these conversations, I think things are going to get worse.
Why are the police treating people different?
Can't they get in trouble for treating people differently?
White people haven't been having these conversations with their children because they don't have to.
Do you guys know what it means to have white privilege?
When you're not the target of the discrimination, it's not as visible to you. And that invisibility is a freedom.
What do you think it looks like to see?
So you want to take their freedom
racist?
away? Okay.
So is it like somebody shouting the N-word and burning a cross, or do you see it in little places?
The talk is this conversation that Black parents have with our Black children to prepare.
This is already... Okay, I'm sorry. I know we were supposed to watch the whole thing. I promise we will. This is already showing parents teaching their children to be racist. This is literally showing parents teaching their children to see racism in everything. Oh my God.
For, in essence, this racist world. It's illegal to have a church.
Justice for him.
We're trying to arm our children, helping them to understand that when people treat you differently, this is why, and this is how we respond. Some white parents would, I teach my child to treat everyone equally, to treat everyone fairly, and that's inadequate. It is not enough. Children, whether you've taught them to be mean or not, are making...
Okay, I just want to emphasize what she just said. She said, it is not enough or adequate to treat everyone fairly. And I haven't looked at this whole website. We're going to discover some of it together, but I have looked at the definitions section. And you're going to see why this perturbs me in a second. And what I want you guys to think about in the chat is the difference between equity and equality. They literally just said that white parents should teach their children that treating everyone fairly, treating everyone the same, is not good enough.
Sense of the world around them, what's beautiful and what's not, who gets to be a certain role and who doesn't. If we aren't the ones teaching them, then who or what is?
What is racism, and what do you think about it?
Have you ever seen somebody treated unfairly because of the color of their skin?
The talk sounds like it's this one-off thing that you do, but it's really a continuous conversation.
Do you remember why they were protesting?
No, I don't.
What about you? Have you ever caused racial harm before?
It's really hard to hear, well, this is a hard conversation. I don't want to make my child sad. You don't want to make your child sad, and I don't want my child to die. These are not equivalents.
Do you remember?
She literally just said that if you don't teach your children to be racist and perceive the world like we want them to, then my child will die. That is one of the most emotionally manipulative things that I've ever heard in my life. If you don't teach your child to see the world like I do, then you are literally killing my child. That's completely untrue.
The first time you saw someone being treated unfairly because of race, or that you saw things that seemed not right to you?
You know, I just did not get it back then. And I had to go back and apologize and say, I was so ignorant to this. Like, I can't believe I said this. Everything I was saying was racist and I didn't even know it.
Talk to young children about what racism is, giving them the language to understand it.
Can you imagine teaching your kids literally everything that you've ever said is racist and you just didn't realize it? Wow. When you want to find something, you will. For example, if you want to find a reason not to like someone, I guarantee you that you will find a reason not to like that person. You will say, they looked at me the wrong way. I don't like their hair. I think their clothes are stupid. Oh my God, the tone of their voice that they're using, that just drives me crazy. If you want to find a reason not to like someone, you will find a reason not to, even if it requires taking things out of context. The same is true with racism. If you want to find racism in any single situation, then you will absolutely be able to invent a reason that racism exists in every single situation, even if it does not. This is very literally telling parents that they should train their children to see racism in everything. That is child abuse. That is especially child abuse if you are raising a non-white child. If you are teaching a non-white child that the only way that that non-white child can be successful in the world is if white people allow them to be successful in the world, that is child abuse. That is going to inhibit everything that that child can even dream of achieving for the rest of their lives, because they will always feel as though they have to ask the permission of people who don't look like them, and that is absurd. They shouldn't have to ask permission for anything. They should have the expectation that they can do anything they want to do if they put their mind to it and they work hard and they show up and they're consistent, and maybe have a little bit of luck, because sometimes having a little bit of luck is required. But for my money, I've always found that the more that I showed up, the harder I worked, the more luck I seemed to have. It's funny how that works.
Because slavery was legal at that point in time. So
they can be disruptors. They can shape and shift culture.
I think what's going to help is just talking about it, because right now, when we're having this conversation, it helps me want to stand up.
Pull out a recent moment in history and talk about what happened with George Floyd.
we may not always know the answer, but we'll try and help you learn. And then I want you to take all the good things that you learn and try and teach others, and to try and say that's not right.
You don't have to have all the answers, but that doesn't mean we can't start. It's time. It's time for us to talk about what happens to people with darker skin. It's time to talk about, what do you believe? What type of world do you want to create?
The reason they want to talk to your kids, and Patrice actually said this perfectly in the chat, they want to make revolutionaries. By the time we reach 8 years old, before we reach the age of 8, our brain is extremely malleable. And kids, this is why it's good if you have kids to teach them foreign languages like early on. And I'm sure the fact that I said foreign language is somehow racist, but that's how I learned it growing up in the 90s. It's really good to teach your kids languages when they're really young. Like, my husband started learning English when he was 7 years old. And he can speak it pretty well today, and he can speak it fluently. I'm sure it doesn't hurt that he lives here. But if you teach them languages when they're really young, they pick it up a lot easier. The same is true with every other idea that exists. So if you teach kids before the time they're 8 years old that racism exists everywhere, and that it is our job as white people to stand up and become little activists, that is going to be in that kid's head for the rest of their lives, and it will be extremely hard to get it out. The same is true if you're teaching young non-white kids that the only way that they can be successful is if white people allow them to be. If you teach them that and that gets instilled in them before they're 8 years old, it is extraordinarily hard to undo it. So that's why they're doing it. That's why they're focusing on this age. Let's look around at some of the other things on the website, because one of the things that I enjoyed looking at was, let's see. They had a resource section for parents. What do white children need to know about race? Let's see what this says. Today, white parents have the unique opportunity to change the 400-year trajectory of racism by openly talking to their kids about race, whiteness, racism, and inequality. Before you read, reflect on these big ideas questions before you read the article, and then revisit them after you finish the series. Notice if any of your responses changed. Guys, do you want to like, should we do this exercise right now? Why not? We're all here. Growing up, what did you learn about race? What did you learn about being a white person? When/how did conversations about race take place with your family? What messages do white families send to children about race when conversations about race only occur in reaction to negative or sensationalized content or current events? Do you agree with the statement, "I do not see color. Race does not matter. We are all the same. Why or why not?" And what is the responsibility of white parents in talking to their children about the historical structure or power of whiteness? Oh, look, they even say it. People who watch this channel regularly, you know that critical race theory is not about race, it's about power. They're actually saying that. The historical structural power of whiteness. All right, let's see. How long is this article? We're not going to read this whole thing. Okay. What white children need to know about race. Growing up in suburban Midwest, I, Allie Michael, never talked about race with my family. We were all white. All of our neighbors were white. And it never occurred to us that there was anything to say about that. As a result, in later years, I developed a deep sense of shame whenever I talked about race, particularly in college, where I was expected to make mature, personal, and academic contributions to race dialogues. Well, what did Ali study in college that he was required to make substantive contributions to the dialogue about race? That makes no sense. Unless he was specifically going to college to study race. Was he going to college to study engineering and they wanted him to make academic contribution to the race dialogue? Okay. At a certain point, I realized that this shame came from the silence about race in my childhood. The silence had two functions. It was at the root of my lack of competency to even participate in conversations on race. It also had inadvertently sent me the message that race was on a very short list of topics that polite people do not discuss. My parents did not intend for me to receive this message, but because we never talked about race, I learned to feel embarrassed whenever it came up. And so even when I wanted to participate in the conversation, I had to contend with deep feelings of shame and inadequacy first. Research on white racial socialization is beginning to emerge within the field of racial socialization that makes it clear that many white people share my experience. What is it called for the chat? And we can do this on Odyssey or Rockfin too. I'm just looking to see if anything's going on in the chat over there. What is it called when people make assumptions about other people based on race? What is that called when people might make an assumption about you based purely on the color of your skin and what you can know and not know and what you do and don't do? Based purely on the color of your skin? I'm just curious. Let's learn about white racial socialization. Scholars differentiate between active and passive socialization, as well as proactive and reactive socialization. Active racial socialization occurs in context in which racial socialization is deemed essential for children's ability to effectively navigate the world. Yeah, I think Randall got what I was looking for. It's kind of bigotry, isn't it? When you make assumptions about people based on the color of their skin, or Carlos says racial profiling. Yeah, I'd say that that's true. Excuse me, guys. Yeah, Patrice, stereotype. We're reinforcing stereotypes today for white children, apparently. Because many white families generally do not consider racial competencies among the skills their children will need when they grow up, they tend to socialize passively and reactively. This strategy leads to silence about race in many white households. Because U.S. society is already structured racially, silence leaves unchallenged the many racial messages children receive from a number of socializing agents, which consistently place whites at the top of the racial hierarchy. So this website is literally suggesting that families teach young children that whites are the most powerful people in society. That's reinforcing racial stereotypes. Silence is thus hardly a passive stance. Labeled Whiteness at Work by Irene Yu, education professor at the University of Utah, silence is a socialization strategy that perpetuates a racist status quo. This attitude here is exactly how you get the term silence is violence. They're saying that if you keep silent, you are perpetuating a white power structure where white people are at the very top of society. You didn't even do anything. You didn't say the words that they wanted you to say, and therefore your silence is violence. Racial socialization for white youth, then, is the process by which they learn what it means to be white in a society that currently values whiteness. It differs markedly from the racial socialization of people of color because of the ways that whites tend to benefit materially from systems of racism. The role of schools in white racial socialization. While most scholars of racial socialization agree that the primary means of racial socialization happens in the home, there is also broad consensus that it is a multidirectional process that messages reach children through books, media, television, music, and schools. They're about to explain to us why teachers are becoming activists. Many white parents in the Bartoli et al. Study used school as one of their only conscious racial socialization strategies, sending their children to racially diverse schools in the hope that they would learn the racial competence they needed by being in a racially diverse environment. Yet few schools currently engage in conscious policies to support the development of positive racial identity, in spite of the fact that research has shown that such work could lead to a better racial climate. This article is making the argument that it is the school's job to teach children about race, not reading, not writing, not math. It's making the argument that it is the school's job to teach children about race. What do they actually say to the children, though? I want to know what they actually say to the kids. I guess that's not going to say. Okay, let's go back. The guides. Let's look at a guide for children, because look at this. We were just looking at a guide for parents. For children ages 3 to 5 years old, they have a guide for this. 3 to 5 years old. At this age, children may begin to notice and point out differences in people they see around them. Babies notice physical differences, including skin color, as early as 6 months. This website is telling parents that their little darlings are racist at 6 months old. And then if you don't teach them not to be racist, starting at 6 months old or maybe 3 years old, whatever, I don't really think there's that much of a moral difference between the two, then they're just going to grow up racist. You don't want that, do you? Studies have shown that by age 5, children can show signs of racial bias, such as treating people from one racial group more favorably than the other. As a parent, you have the opportunity to gently lay the foundation of their worldview. Use the language that's age appropriate and easy for them to understand. Let's see, which resource should we look at? How we can change the world. What is racism? How can I stand up to racism? What is our story? Helping children dream of coming together. Why do people look different? Which one should we look at, guys? Chat in what your answer is. I'll go with whatever you like. Just as a reminder, while I'm waiting for your answers, I'm going to be doing this every Friday. Not every day. God, not every Friday. God, I'm going to have to get used to saying new things. I'm going to be doing this every day at 5 o'clock. On Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I will be on my main channel, Karlin Borisenko. I will also be on Odyssey and Rockfin. On Fridays at 5 p.m., I will be on my second YouTube channel, Actively Unwoke, which you can subscribe to. The link is in the description wherever you're watching. And we're going to do Friday happy hour at 5 on Actively Unwoke. Okay, let me just take a look. Why do people look different? Why do people look different? Pavel says 5. What is our story? Why do we look different? I guess we're going with why do we look different? This is the one you guys want to look at. Okay, let's take a look. Written. Holy shit. Look who it's written by. Sesame Street. This is written by Sesame Street. Okay. All kids need a strong individual and group identity, but racism hurts the healthy development of both. Racism hurts our entire society. Whether you and the children in your care are directly affected by racism or you're allies of those who are, honestly engaging directly with little ones is the beginning of building racial literacy. The skill needed to talk thoughtfully about race and identity and to respond to racism. Here are the resources to develop children's understanding, curiosity, resilience, and empathy, and to prepare for the task of building a better world by standing up, standing tall, and standing together. So, I just want to point out a couple of things. They have made declarative statements that racism hurts our entire society. Whether you and the children in your care are directly affected by racism or your allies are, you need to engage with it. Where have they provided any proof for those statements? Now, I will not say ever that racism doesn't exist. Racism absolutely does exist. There are legitimate racists. But most of what people like this are talking about is not objective racism. It is subjective racism. It is something that one person could look at and say, yeah, that might be a little racist. It is something that another person could look at and say, that didn't have anything to do with the color of your skin. That had to do with many other things that are not the color of your skin. There is a difference between objective racism and subjective racism. Most of what this website is going to talk about is subjective racism. Oh, there's videos. Oh, good. Oh, good. Exactly. We're going to watch a Sesame Street video. Awesome. Explaining what is race. Building racial literacy is essential to thriving within the world as it is, while simultaneously striving to build an anti-racist world. Children need to feel affirmed in what they notice about the people in the world around them, while also equipped with language to understand. When Elmo notices that some of the leaves in the park matched his red fur and some matched his friend Wes's brown skin, he wondered how skin gets its color. Wes's dad, Elijah, explains it's from melanin, which I thought race was a social construct, by the way. If race is a social construct, then does melanin really exist? Is it a real thing? Something everyone has in their bodies that gives us our skin, eye, and hair color. Do you guys want to watch this video with Elmo? Let's see what Sesame Street is teaching kids. 3 minutes. Oh, it's taking a second to load. Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Dad, I think today's perfect.
A full day weather forecast of sunny skies and smiles.
Hi,
Elmo.
What are you two doing? Dad and I are taking a break from our nature walk.
Yep, and we stop for a moment to enjoy the colorful leaves.
Yeah. Oh, look, Elmo, the leaves are falling.
Yeah, look. This leaf is red like Elmo's fur, and this leaf is brown like Wes's skin.
Good observation, Elmo.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Elmo has a question.
Oh, what is it, Elmo?
Elmo wants to know why Wes's skin is brown.
Oh, I know why, Elmo. My mom and Dad told me. It's because of melanin. Right, Dad?
That's right.
Melanin? Oh, what's that?
Well, melanin is something that we each have inside our bodies that make the outside of our bodies the skin color that it is. It also gives us our eye and our hair color.
Oh, and our fur color?
Yes, that's right. Exactly, Elmo.
Oh, but if we all have melanin, why are we different colors? Like, why is Mr. Elijah's skin a darker brown than Wes's skin?
Oh, that's a good question, Elmo. Well, it's because the more melanin you have, the darker your skin looks.
Oh.
The color of our skin is an important part of who we are, but we should all know that it's okay that we all look different in so very many ways.
Oh, well, Elmo's fur is red and soft.
Oh, and my hair is black and curly.
Things on the outside, like our skin color, our hair texture, our noses, our mouths and eyes, make us who we are. Many people call this race. But even though we look different, we're all part of the human race.
Isn't it cool, Elmo?
Very cool.
I actually have no problem with this video so far. I have absolutely no problem with anything that's been said, but I want to point out that I'm actually really surprised that this website chose this video, because what he just said, what the father just said, is we're all the same on the inside. I don't think any of what just happened here is wrong or bad. I know that might piss some of you off, but I don't actually think that talking to this is a bad thing for parents to do. I don't think this video thus far has said anything bad. But the thing of it is the people that made the website that this video was on will teach you, and we've already seen it. They flat out say on the website, do not treat people equally. The father just said, we're all members of the human race. Yes, perfect. Yes, exactly. So then why is this video on a website where they are teaching people to tell their children as young as 3 to treat people differently based on their skin color? Because that is literally what this website teaches. But let's finish the video just to be sure.
Huh, look at the leaves. What do you two see?
Elmo sees leaves that are all different colors.
And the different colors look really cool together.
Yes, those leaves came from one amazing tree. Standing strong, its branches like arms stretch wide, with leaves of many different colors, side by side swaying together in the breeze.
Oh, like this? Wow.
When people of all colors come together, we stand strong, like this tree.
That's actually really lovely. It
This
is.
leaf looks just like us. 2 colors side by side.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful together.
Okay, I'm going to say it. That I made fun of that video preemptively. I shouldn't have. I actually think that that video was a really lovely video. I just don't understand the context. I don't understand it. Let me just see, because I know that I had other resources that I thought definitions you might need. Here's what I was looking for. Check this out. So this is the part of the website where they give you important definitions. And look at this definition they have for equity. I don't know how to square that video that we just watched with the definition of equity that they're teaching on this website. If that video, pause, I shouldn't move on to the definition so quick. That video actually gave me hope. That video made me feel really good. Did watching that video make anyone else feel good? It's like, if you want to talk about race, I have no problem with people talking about race. I have no problem with anything that was in that video. And I would be more than thrilled if we could live in a reality in which that video was how we were talking about race. I would be very happy with that. I would have no problem. The problem is when we get to things like this, their little glossary of terms. Let's read the definition for the term equity, which is not to be confused with equality. Everyone getting what they need in order to have access, opportunities, and a fair chance to succeed. It recognizes that the same for everyone, equality, doesn't truly address needs, and therefore specific solutions and remedies, which may be different, are necessary. This definition of equity is not saying that we treat everyone the same regardless of skin color. What their definition on their literal website is saying is we should treat people differently based on their skin color. Because having equal access to opportunity isn't actually the most important things. It does say access and opportunities, but what it also says is a fair chance to succeed. And that people might need different things to have a fair chance to succeed. Well, you can't give people work ethic. You can't give people the desire to show up. You can't give people any of these things. And you can't give people luck. You can't give people any of these things. So why do we need to give people different things based purely on the color of their skin to make sure everyone has an equal chance of succeeding? What they mean is give a leg up to people based on their skin color, and that is overtly racist. They are literally distinguishing the difference between equity and equality. It recognizes that the same for everyone doesn't address needs. They're saying giving everyone the same thing is not good enough. We need to give people who aren't white a little extra. I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with making assumptions based on the color of someone's skin. I'm not okay with making assumptions about what people need and what they are capable of accomplishing based on the color of their skin. I am perfectly fine with helping people when they need it. I'm perfectly fine with providing support when people need it. But I am not fine with making the basis of that support an immutable characteristic that they are born with and can never change. Naruto says, Fox News tweeted out yesterday, report says cloth masks don't work. Well, we have to check with the CDC for that, Naruto. I can't co-sign that because I'm on YouTube. So I'm going to recommend that everyone check with the CDC, who I'm sure will have unbelievably consistent guidance on this issue. Let's look at some other terms. Ally, someone who speaks out on behalf of or takes action that are supportive of someone who is targeted by bias or bullying, either themselves or someone else. Bias, an inclination or preference, either for or against an individual or group that interferes with impartial judgment. Definition for elementary age children. A preference either for or against an individual or group that affects fair judgment. What they're not saying in this is that they assume that everyone has bias unconsciously. Now, it is true that we do have unconscious bias, but we have unconscious bias about a variety of things. If you hated your uncle growing up, your uncle was kind of a douche, and he always wore a red sweater, you will probably have an unconscious bias for the rest of your life against red sweaters. That's just the way it goes. We hold a lot of information in our subconscious. What anti-racists assume is that everyone has exactly the same type of implicit bias, even though the inventors of the implicit bias test have said flat out it doesn't actually measure anything. Anyway, I just thought that, let's look at the definition of racism. Racism and systemic, oh my God, look at the definition of systemic racism. You know that they were leading up to something. I bet you they organized this entire glossary around the fact that they would get to systemic racism last to have the longest definition. Let's look at these definitions, though. Racism, according to DearWhiteParents.guide, is the marginalization and/or oppression of people of color based on a socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people. The definition for elementary age children: the disrespect, harm, and mistreatment of people of color based on made-up ideas that white people deserve to be in charge and treated better. Look at what they're teaching kids. They are teaching kids that this is the definition of racism. I want to read this one again. The disrespect, harm, and mistreatment of people of color based on made-up ideas that white people deserve to be in charge and treated better. Who made up the idea that white people deserve to be in charge and treated better? Who made up that idea? I didn't make up that idea. I have never heard of that idea before reading this guide. Has any of you ever heard of the idea that white people deserve to be treated better? Because I don't believe that's true. Who made up that idea? Anti-racist trainers made up that idea. People who literally make money off of teaching white people that they are racist, off of teaching white people that they believe in some made-up power structure at which they have placed themselves at the very top. You know who really made up the idea? I do believe anti-racist trainers absolutely did it, but you really want to know who did it? It was the liberal white academics who invented critical race theory in the flipping first place. It was liberal white academic professors in an ivory tower that had never been in the real world in their lives that made up the idea that white people think that they deserve to be in charge. Guess who made up the idea that white people think they deserve to be in charge? White people who think they deserve to be in charge of everything. Shocking. The liberal white academics are actually the most racist of all. So guys, I just had some fun on that website. I'm going to chat this in if you guys want to check this out. This is dearwhiteparents.guide. I'll put it on YouTube, put it on Odyssey, on Rockfin. So you guys have that there. But there was just one more article I wanted to touch base on. Now, I did see a question earlier in the chat about community Zoom in locals. Let me just get this up and then we can talk about that. So for community Zoom in locals, I actually do have a community Zoom opening in my locals community in 50 minutes at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. It will be our first community Zoom of 2022. So in my locals, for my locals members, we are now doing community Zooms on Mondays and Wednesdays. The Zoom information is posted in locals. If you go to this image, it's posted right in the very first comment for the Zoom link. I will also be sending out the information before we get started. So you're going to have access to the link, and we're going to get started at 7 p.m. Eastern time. On Wednesdays, we're going to get started at noon Eastern time. And this is a local supporter exclusive. So if you want to become a supporter in my locals, head over to kb.locals.com/support. You can get access to all of our community Zooms, $5 a month. You can also do $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can make a one-time gift. All of that gets you access to the community Zooms. It gets you access to all of the features in locals. Best community on the internet. Best community ever. Most supportive. And I can't wait to talk to you guys in about 50 minutes. But I want to talk about one more thing first, because I just saw this article. I actually found this on GETTR on Outkick. Warning to the woke. The sad state of Keith Olbermann is how it ends. I just thought that would be a fun one to read. Let's check it out. If you didn't bother to see why Keith Olbermann resurfaced in the news this week, let me fill you in. After Barstool Sports commemorated high schooler Tate Meyer, who gave his life to protect fellow students during a Michigan school shooting, Olbermann, via the quote tweet feature, blamed Dave Portnoy and Barstool's Trump fascism for the shooting. The kid died to stop a school shooter whose mother echoed the Trumpist fascism of Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports. Olbermann tweeted, "What evidence did Olbermann have? The shooter's mother once published a blog post in favor of Trump." This article is about a month old, just so you guys know, but I still think it's got some good points in it. We can discuss Olbermann as a man clearly in decline, and because of his long pattern of disgusting behavior, most have. But the sad state of Olbermann is not a singular matter. Instead, it should be a warning to the woke everywhere. Keith Olbermann is living proof of what years of lies, misery, hypocrisy, and baseless indignation do to a human. Living this way eventually takes a toll. It requires such effort to manufacture venomous hate over nothing. Plus, it never ends. You know, one of the reasons that I was a Democrat for so long was actually because of Keith Olbermann. It was because of his special comment on the 1-year anniversary of 9/11. Or maybe it was the 1 year, maybe it was the 5-year. I'm not sure. He did a special it must have been a 5-year. I'm pretty sure it was a 5-year now that I'm thinking about it. He did a special comment on about 9/11 back in like 2006. Look up this special comment. You can find it on YouTube. I know because I watched it probably 6 months ago, something like that. No, I watched it actually on the anniversary of 9/11. I remember that because I wanted to remind myself what I ever saw in Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann used to be normal. He made some really good points in that special comment he did back in 2006 that I actually think, shockingly enough, a lot of conservatives might agree with today. So I would encourage everyone to go back and watch it because it was good stuff. And then compare that to the lunacy that we see in Keith Olbermann now. Keith Olbermann has lost his damn mind. And I think is one of the better examples of when you feed on the woke every single day, when you're constantly looking for reasons to be pissed off, when you're constantly looking for racism in everything, when you're constantly looking for reasons to demonize your political opponents, you eventually will become very unhinged and detached from reality. And I think that is exactly what we're seeing in Keith Olbermann. But it might not all be him. And this article makes a really good point that I want to make sure we address, but let's keep going. Front-facing members of the progressive movement are riding a never-ending treadmill. In Adam Carolla's book, I'm Your Emotional Support Animal, Carolla says the contentious nature of the campaign is the very purpose of wokeness. Think about the two words, progressive movement. They mean it's never going to stop. It starts by moving towards real problems. But when the people in the movement run out of real problems, they still need to keep progressing, keep moving, and that's where we're at now. In essence, progressive fighters never reach gratification. Take that however you will. So they start in a dark place and never escape. They are loyal social media foot soldiers who sacrifice their own personal lives for the sake of the cause. What's most troubling about this dynamic is that other Twitter users have been misled about the root cause. There's a misconception that career race baiters have brainwashed their followers. That's not entirely true. Instead, their followers have actually convinced them that they must continually uncover racism even where none exists, meaning they must plumb the depths that have no bottom. This is the part of the article that really caught my attention. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger so you guys can actually see it. Oh god, I'm making the wrong screen bigger. Hang on. That'll be probably a little bit better. So this is the part of the article that caught my attention. Did Keith Olbermann and people like him drive their audience to lunacy? Or did the audience drive them to lunacy? This is something I've thought a lot about. Because, and quite frankly, I do understand it on some level. Because, listen, man, my platform was built mostly on conservatives. Let's just be honest. I was a conservative darling for about a month and a half in early 2020, and that's pretty much how my platform got built. A lot of conservatives still watch this channel, and I'm grateful for when they do. But one of the things that I've had continual trouble with is my conservative audience wants me to say one thing, but it might differ from what I actually want to say. And I've thought a lot about how much do I pander to this audience that, let's just be honest, there are a lot of grifters that leave the left and then they speak conservative talking points over and over and over again, and conservatives love that. This is why Candace Owens is famous. Conservatives love that. By the way, they love it on the left too. This is not just a conservative thing. If someone leaves the right and they go to the left, listen, who does MSNBC hire? Nicole Wallace was the communications director under W. The left loves right-leaning people who defect to them just as much as the right loves left-leaning people who defect to them. But at some point, at least for me, I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if all I did was pander to the talking points an audience wanted me to pander to. But I can absolutely understand the pressure to do that. I think that the Daily Wire does this specifically. I think they do this to the right. I think the Daily Wire, for the most part, I don't dislike everyone at the Daily Wire, and I do think they have some good reporters, but I think the commentators largely pander to what the audience wants. I think a lot of people on the right, whether they be Candace Owens or, you know, other like MAGA people, they pander to what their audience wants. Matt Walsh, Brooks, oh God, you better fucking believe it. And you can become very successful doing that. But at some point, that's got to get into your head. When we look at the left, we can see Joy Reid. Holy hell. Joy Reid completely panders to what the audience wants, and she's gone insane. Rachel Maddow, I actually really like watching Rachel Maddow from just a presenting perspective. I think that not thinking about the content, but how she presents it, I think is actually pretty good. But she's lost her damn mind and she lies all the time. There's a difference between respecting someone for a presentation style and respecting what they have to say, right? We can look at Chris Hayes. Chris Hayes is so crazy. And like Keith Olbermann, like everyone that has ever been even in the vicinity of MSNBC, and let's not even talk about CNN and Don Lemon. Chris Cuomo, who just got fired for protecting his brother, Brian Stelter, who is like a human potato. All these people pander to their audience all day. Do they drive their audience insane, or does the audience demand that they use these crazy talking points? And in using the crazy talking points over and over and over again, it slowly drives the presenters insane. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me do a poll on YouTube. Who's responsible? The presenter or the audience? Who's responsible for insanity? Actually, I'm going to do the commentator. The commentator, not the presenter. The commentator. All right, let me know what you guys think, and then we'll read the rest of the article. Their followers and algorithms now encourage them to address whole demographics rather than focus on a few individuals. That's why Jamal, I don't know how to pronounce her name, a very gross individual, now focuses on white women as a species rather than Kelly Loeffler and Marjorie Taylor Greene individually as she once did. Olbermann knows that direction as well. Progressive tweeters with large followings are motivated by the approval they get from retweets, likes, and follows on social media. I would say the same is true of conservatives. A recent Pew study found that 10% of Twitter users make up 92% of the platform's engagement. So who is this 10%? Ideologically, they amass a political leaning of D plus 43. In other words, it's a class of radicals, most of whom prefer modern segregation to freedom. The audience the progressives aim to please has created an atmosphere that demands daily evidence of systemic racism, transphobia, Trump fascism, and anti-vax information. Think of the drain this must take on the movement's public faces. They are trying to constantly appease the unappeasable. I think this is a really fair point. I mean, it cannot be easy to be in that position. And I would say this regardless of whether we're talking about a commentator on the right or a commentator on the left. This is one of the reasons why I am so committed. Even if I lose audience, I don't care as much about losing audience as I do about remaining true to myself and what I believe. Because I don't want to be driven insane. And I absolutely understand how this might happen. If your commitment is higher to amassing an audience than it is to telling the truth, if you care more about amassing an audience than you do about telling the truth, then you will do anything to amass that audience. As you're on Twitter, as you're on GETTR, as you're on whatever platform you happen to be on, YouTube, watching videos instead of like reading words on a screen, ask yourself if the people that you are watching are more committed to amassing an audience than they are to telling the truth. If they are more committed to amassing an audience than they are to telling the truth, then you should constantly be questioning what this person is telling me. You should constantly be questioning the validity and the accuracy of what they're telling you. Because if they are more committed to amassing an audience than they are to telling the truth, then they will say what they need to say to amass that audience. There are still people who blindly follow Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood. There are still people who blindly follow people who have, I'm sorry, just a little bit of a screw loose. Believe everything they say. Because they never thought that maybe they wanted to be famous a little bit more than they wanted to tell you the truth. Ultimately, the woke became a caricature of their own ideology because no one can be that offended, bothered, and imaginative all the time. And playing a character is a dangerous game. After so long, you become what you portray. That is very true. This is another thing I've thought about a lot, because if you live in a mentality or an energy or an ideology all day, every day, you will become that thing. We all need to be careful of that. We will become the thing that we spend the most time with. We will become that thing. That's why these people struggle to transition themselves out of their poisonous mindset and enjoy their lives. It's almost impossible to do. Thus, it's no coincidence that Oberman, 62, is not married. Who would want to live with a guy like that day after day? Sadly, the data shows that he may not be alone in being alone. About 10% of Americans claim they have 0 friends in their lives. How many such Americans consider themselves woke? This exists on both sides, guys. Like, you've got to get out and experience the real world. You really do. You've got to get out and experience the real world. In the last month, I kind of took it easy in December because I was trying to recharge. I've made it a priority to put real life things ahead of online things because I was starting to lose my mind. And it's all the better for it. Make friends in the real world. I know that it's hard to make friends when you're an adult. I know it. But it's so, so, so worth it. And if you can't do it in the real world, dude, come to my local Zoom. This is why we do Zoom, so we can see each other. We can talk to each other. I consider many of my locals people my friends. As long as they're not stabbing me in the back and lying about me on the internet. It's a whole other thing. Every once in a while that happens. Not too often. All right, let's finish up this article. Race hustling is a lonely life, and the sacrifice hardly pays off. No matter how well you've saved your inherited get-out-of-jail-free cards, which include your name, picture, and preferred pronouns, the same faction that helped you grow will turn on you the moment it's advantageous to do so. Oh God, isn't this the truth? For anyone who ever has dreamed of creating content on the internet, let me assure you, not everyone, but a lot of people, if you stop saying the talking points that they want you to say, they will turn on you like that. There is very little authenticity in this game. On the right or on the left. There is very, very, very little authenticity that exists. If you are not listening to independent commentators, the chances of you finding someone that is authentically expressing a position or a truth without a commitment to the scripted talking points that have been handed down from on high is extremely slim. I might not always like Tim Pool, but Tim Pool is an independent and I believe authentic voice to what he believes. Because he doesn't have to answer to anyone. A lot of people in this game have people to answer to, even if those people are their audience. Make sure you understand the difference. Because there are a lot of people in this game who are very well aware that if they do not say exactly what their audience wants them to say, they will lose that audience. And they will turn on you the minute that I will get comments on this video saying, "You're just not the person I thought you were." Happens every single day. Because the demand for white nationalism far exceeds the supply, those on the hunt will eventually run out of external targets and turn on their own. It doesn't matter how many chips you deposit in the woke bank, Megyn Kelly, one of the few hosts with any individuality, told me, they will come for you and they will cut you. Megyn Kelly, I think, does a really good job. I do think that she's authentic to what she believes, and she's doing that. Megyn Kelly is able to be authentic to what she believes. Why? Because she's independent. She's built her own thing. She doesn't have to answer to anyone. That wasn't always the case. Let Chrissy Teigen serve as an example, or former BLM amplifier Rachel Nichols, whose fellow BLM supporters labeled a racist as they sent her away from ESPN jobless and scarred for life. Chris Cuomo relabeled his primetime program the COVID Command Center. Now his former supporters in the press are calling for the death of his career, and it is what it is. Despite Oberman's work towards the cause, for over 2 decades, not a single MSNBC or CNN host will invite him on their programs today. His group members are watching and letting him deteriorate. Perhaps progressives will tear down the country and ensure their own ominous ending. In fact, they probably will, if others who vastly outnumber them don't start fighting back. But either way, almost none of those currently working to ravage the country will make it out unscathed, and in a healthy mental state. Again, this is not a theory. There's detailed proof of how this ends. Keith Olbermann was once the gold standard of two media industries, sports and news. God, whom Olbermann loathed, gifted him with superb delivery and skill. Olbermann went from cheering with Dan Patrick on SportsCenter to preaching on MSNBC with the industry's top staff. Now he's left screaming into an iPhone on his balcony, with no human interaction in sight. Disheartening. And it's coming for all of them. Ibram X. Kendi, Joy Reid, Don Lemon, Ilhan Omar, birthing persons, Nicole Hannah-Jones, and those in their lonely Upper East Side apartments. The sad state of Keith Olbermann is how life ends for the woke. I just think it's an insightful article. Now, again, I want to emphasize that I do think that all of this applies to the right as just as much as it does the left. But let's take a look at that poll. Who is responsible? Is it the commentator or is it the audience? It looks like 67% of you believe that the commentator is responsible, and 33% say the audience. Oh, if you don't think, I'm sorry. I like Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec is a nice guy. If you don't think that Jack Posobiec panders to an audience, dude, but he's a very nice guy. And his wife is very nice, so beautiful. Very nice guy. Anyway, guys, that is all I have for today. Now, if you enjoyed this show, I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to be doing this every day at 5 on Sunday, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays on my main channel. On Fridays, I'm going to go live on Actively Unwoke, which is my second YouTube channel for happy hour. We're going to do that at 5 p.m., so make sure you're subscribed to both. The link to Actively Unwoke is in the description. That's where happy hour is going to live from now on. And in about half an hour, I will be having a locals community Zoom. Here, let's get that information right up. Again, for my locals members, we'll be doing this on Mondays and Wednesdays. Our open community Zooms. On Mondays, they're going to be at 7 o'clock Eastern. On Wednesdays, they're going to be at noon. You still have plenty of time to sign up. Where you sign up is if you head over to kb.locals.com/support, because you do have to be a supporter in order to access the community Zoom. It's a special perk. It comes in at $5 a month, $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. And you can also make a one-time gift that will get you access. And I'll look forward to talking to some of you in about half an hour. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll talk about some new stuff. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.